Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to today's video. As you can tell by the title and the thumbnail, we are talking all about this guy right here, the Sony A7 III, and more specifically, we're talking about why I am selling it and switching back to Canon. Now, I do want to preface this conversation that we're about to have with saying that I'm going to focus mostly on the video features from the Sony and not so much on photography. I'll briefly touch on the photo, but for me, the biggest part of this decision came down to the video features, came down to the video performance, and so I want us to talk mostly on that. The two main factors that helped me make this decision, which I would highly encourage you if you are considering buying a new camera or a new piece of equipment and you're wondering, what do I do? So the two factors that I used are the final product and the user experience. The final product, meaning what does this camera produce at the end of the day? When you are handing over your video, or you're making something for yourself, what does that final product look like? And then on the user experience, how did you feel? Did you enjoy it? Did you like filming? Because remember, at the end of the day, this is all supposed to be fun. So final product, user experience, that's what we're going to talk about today. And so firstly, let's talk about the final product when it comes to the Sony A7 III for video. As I'm sure most of you probably know, the Sony has so many features. It is spec'd out to the max. For any camera in that price point, it has much more, from the specs and feature side of things than anything that I've ever seen. But unfortunately, as spec'd out as that camera is, for me, honestly, since the moment I picked it up, I've honestly never been able to get the results that I wanted to get. Now, of course, that's not all the camera's fault. Obviously, there's some user stuff going on there. And I've seen many people who have the Sony A7 III on YouTube and whatnot who have created just amazing, beautiful images, high class, high quality videos. But for me, for my personal standard, I've never been fully satisfied with what I've been able to get out of this camera. And I think a big reason for that is because I originally came from Canon. My first ever camera was a Canon little crop sensor Rebel series camera. And to be honest, I love that camera. It was less than $500. It was really simplistic in design and really simple in all the features that it had. But however, it definitely packed a punch. I mean, the videos that I could produce from that camera, given the price point, were honestly, I think, pretty good. I'll leave a little video right here if you want to check that out if you haven't seen that one already. Now, this is my opinion, so don't hate me for it or whatever, but I honestly think the colors out of Canon look better than the colors out of Sony. And I know that's not any sort of groundbreaking statement or anything like that. I think it's very well noted on the internet that a lot of people think Canon has the best color science. I don't know if it has the best color science, but head to head against Canon versus Sony, I do think Canon looks better. So I don't know if it has to do with that I started on Canon and I kind of have just that attachment towards what the Canon colors and the Canon image looks like, but that was something that I tried to look past for so long now. But finally, I just kind of came to this point where I'm like, I don't like the image that comes out of the Sony cameras. Now, a big thing to consider with the A7 III is that the 1080 video is absolute trash. To me, for a $2,000 camera, the full HD 1080p video just honestly does not look good. If you want to shoot professional video on this camera, you are pretty much forced to shoot at 4K. Now, I've got no problem with 4K, but for some other things like YouTube videos or whatnot, the fact that I can't shoot 1080 and be satisfied with it, that's a big bummer for me. So really your only option if you want to shoot high quality professional video out of this camera is to shoot 4K, and that's kind of ridiculous if you ask me. And that kind of brings me to the underlying theme of this video is that yes, the Sony is completely spec'd out and has all the features. But can I tell you that honestly, it does not matter how many features you have, if you are not satisfied with the end result, all those features mean nothing. And that's really where I've been for the last 4 months of owning this camera. And I think in today's world, closing out of 2018, moving into the new year, I think it's so oftentimes the most overlooked thing when, you know, there's comparison videos out there and people are talking about specs and the features and, oh, does it have IBIS and does it have this and does it have that? You know, a lot of people give the Canon EOS R a hard time because of the lack of features that show up on the spec sheet. But to be honest, I'm shooting on the EOS R right now. I think it looks pretty good, and it doesn't have anywhere near the amount of features that the Sony has. However, I think honestly the most important thing that we look at is, are you satisfied with how that video turned out? And that changes for each person. What I might like, you may not, and what you might like, I may not. And so it's hard to make your decision based solely off of, does it shoot full frame, uncropped 4K, or does it have, you know, focus peaking and zebra scales, and does it have all that stuff? Cool. All that stuff hopefully will help you to create a better product, but if it doesn't, then you're really spending your money on something that is useless. Let's move on to the user experience, and like I said, this is where ultimately the majority of my problems with this camera reside. I think one of my biggest problems with this camera is the LCD screen on the back. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. Really to the extent where I couldn't use this camera for video unless I was using an external monitor, which, come on, that's horrible. Talk about user experience. I don't want to put I don't want this to be my setup. This is ridiculous. I mean, it's not the biggest problem in the world, but I mean, come on. When you're spending over $2,000 for a camera, I just expect the screen to be a little more like usable, at least not to the point where I just can't even use it all together. This might actually be the biggest issue that I have, not only with Sony A7III, but with Sony cameras in general. And I'm sure you've heard this before, but the overheating is a real thing. And I thought they would have addressed that. I don't know what the problem is. I'm sure there is a good reason for that. But when you are shooting in the highest quality video, I cannot shoot for longer than an hour straight without it overheating. And that's a big deal. Like, it's pretty embarrassing to be on set and having to stop because my camera's getting hot. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of having a camera and using it for video, is that it's reliable. It's a workhorse, it's a tank. It can withstand high pressure situations. The overheating, that was honestly the straw that broke the camel's back, because I was able to look past a lot of things. I was able to kind of accept the responsibility that if I wasn't satisfied with the image, then that's on me. I need to figure out how to perfect and master this camera. But the overheating, that was really a deal breaker for me. And that was the point where I was like, okay, I need to start thinking about another option. And so anyways, those are the reasons for me why I am selling the Sony and heading back over to the Canon system. Stay tuned, because very shortly, as soon as I get this review done, I'm going to be doing a comparison video with the Sony A7III, the Canon EOS R, but then also I recently picked up the Canon 5D Mark IV, which I'm very excited to test out. So anyways, I'm going to kind of be reviewing and comparing all three of those. Again, mostly for video features, and trying to decide which one is the best for me. And I know I didn't do any of that in this video with, you know, side-by-side comparisons, talking about color science and, you know, S-Log versus C-Log. I will be doing all of that in this video, which hopefully I will have that finished here, you know, as soon as possible. But anyways, that'll do it for me. Thank you guys for watching today's video. I'm sure it's probably, you know, stirred up some reaction or thoughts or comments. So if you have anything to say, make sure you leave it down in the comment section down below. But thank you guys so much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you guys in the next one.